Welcome back, viewers! Today we have a thought-provoking topic that needs our attention. Racism in America. Racial disparities and discrimination still persist in major parts of the country. In this video, we'll be highlighting some of the most racist towns in America and discussing statistical data that sheds light on the issue. Before we dive in, remember that the purpose of this list is to shed light on the issue and encourage positive change. So, let's get started. Harrison, Arkansas. Our first stop takes us to Harrison, Arkansas. Harrison, Arkansas has a dark and troubling history when it comes to race relations. The town gained notoriety with the Harrison race riots of 1905 and 1909, when it violently expelled almost all black residents, establishing an all-white community. The town's association with the Ku Klux Klan further deepened its racist legacy. Today, efforts are being made to overcome this reputation, such as the Community Task Force on Race Relations, working to combat racism and promote equality. Situated in Boone County, this town has unfortunately earned the reputation of being the most racist town in America. On average, black men in the US receive sentences that are 19.1% longer than those of white men convicted for the same crimes. Additionally, 15.8% of black students reported experiencing race-based bullying or harassment. These statistics highlight the racial disparities that persist in Harrison. Anchorage, Alaska. We head north to Anchorage, Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska may not be the first place that comes to mind when discussing racism, but it has its own set of challenges. Native Alaskans face discrimination and violence, with a disproportionately high number of Alaska Native women being victims of crimes. Educational disparities and the preservation of native languages are ongoing concerns. Despite these issues, Anchorage's increasing racial and ethnic diversity presents an opportunity for positive change and a more inclusive community. Racism affects not only Black Americans, but also Native Alaskans. Did you know that Alaska Natives make up only 16% of the population, but account for 29% of all homicide victims? Black Americans living in Alaska make up only 4% of the population, but make up 10% of all homicide victims. Anchorage has a crisis of violence against Alaska Native women, with fewer resources being put towards solving these crimes. These statistics shed light on the racial disparities and discrimination faced by Native Alaskans in Anchorage. Leith, North Dakota. Now let's travel to the small town of Leith, North Dakota. Leith, North Dakota was an unsuspecting small town that faced a shocking threat when white nationalists attempted to take it over. Their presence deeply affected the lone black resident and the community as a whole. The residents of Leith fought back against hate, organizing protests and petitions to reclaim their town. While the town still bears the scars of that dark period, its residents' determination serves as an example of standing up against racism and promoting unity. With a population of only 29 residents, Leith faced an attempted takeover by white nationalists in 2012. The community's response, led by its original residents, was inspiring. However, the incident shed a light on the rise of white supremacist activities in the United States. Fresno, California. Brace yourselves, because number 4 takes us to Fresno, California. Fresno, California is a city that highlights the stark racial disparities that exist within our supposed progressive state. Neglected infrastructure, racial violence, and accusations of racism in the school system plague Fresno's predominantly Latino and Black communities. Residential segregation and the legacy of discriminatory practices have perpetuated inequalities. Acknowledging and addressing these challenges is a vital step towards creating a more inclusive and equitable Fresno. While California is often considered progressive, Fresno tells a different story. Did you know that more than half of West Fresno's residents live below the poverty line, compared to only 27% of the rest of the city? Vidor, Texas. Our journey now leads us to Vidor, Texas, a town with a troubled past as a sundown town, where Black Americans were not allowed after dark. This deeply ingrained racism has left a lasting impact on the town. Although efforts have been made to change its reputation, such as a Black Lives Matter march, Vidor continues to grapple with racial tensions and the need for a more inclusive community. Did you know that Vidor has a population of around 8,600, with only 39 residents identifying as Black, according to the 2020 census? The first Black resident moved into Vidor in 1993 amidst Ku Klux Klan-led protests. These statistics reveal the racial homogeneity of the town and the ongoing struggle to overcome its history of racism. Rochelle, Georgia. Next on our list is Rochelle, Georgia. Rochelle, Georgia, and the wider Wilcox County were known for their shocking persistence of segregated proms until as recently as 2014. The students of Wilcox County High, regardless of their race, took a stand against this discriminatory practice and organized an integrated prom. Their actions brought attention to the racial divides that still exist in some communities and sparked a much-needed conversation about equality and inclusivity. In Rochelle, Georgia, we see the impact of deep-seated traditions. Did you know that Rochelle, Georgia has a population that is 35% Black? These statistics highlight the racial divides that still exist in some communities and the challenges faced by marginalized populations. Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Now we turn our attention to Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where hate crimes are on the rise. Crown Heights, Brooklyn has experienced a tumultuous history characterized by racial tensions between Black and Jewish communities. The 1991 race riots in the neighborhood highlighted these deep-seated divisions. While anti-Semitism is a form of discrimination faced by Jewish Americans, it is crucial to address all forms of discrimination and promote inclusivity. Recognizing and working towards a more harmonious and understanding society is essential in Crown Heights and beyond. Did you know that hate crimes in New York City have increased by 76%? Crown Heights has historically been a refuge for Hasidic Jews fleeing Europe. These statistics reveal the challenges faced by marginalized communities and the urgent need to address hate crimes. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Number 8 brings us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city grappling with racial disparities. Milwaukee, Wisconsin faces significant racial disparities across various aspects of society. Black students in the city experience disproportionately high suspension rates, highlighting systemic issues within the education system. Additionally, Milwaukee has one of the highest incarceration rates for Black men in the country, emphasizing the need for criminal justice reform. The city's deep-rooted segregation, stemming from historical redlining and discriminatory practices, perpetuates inequalities in income, education, and housing. However, community organizations and individuals are working diligently to address these issues and strive for a more equitable Milwaukee. Jasper, Texas. Jasper, Texas gained national attention in 1998 when the brutal murder of James Byrd Jr., a Black man, shook the nation. This horrific incident highlighted the deep-rooted racism that still exists in some communities. The response from the community, denouncing racism and promoting unity, demonstrated the power of solidarity in the face of hate. However, it also served as a stark reminder that the fight against racism must be ongoing, and each generation must actively work towards a more just and inclusive society. Finally, we come to Ferguson, Missouri, a town that became a symbol of resistance and activism. Ferguson, Missouri became a focal point in the fight against racial injustice after the tragic shooting of Michael Brown in 2014. The incident ignited protests and sparked a national conversation about racial inequality and police brutality. The events in Ferguson brought attention to the urgent need for police reform and systematic change. While some progress has been made, the underlying issues of racial injustice persist. reminding us of the ongoing work required to create a more equitable and just society. Ferguson has one of the highest rates of police shootings in the United States. These statistics shed light on the urgent need for police reform and systematic change to address racial inequality and injustice in these towns. Remember, the towns on this list are not the only places where racism persists. It exists throughout the country, and it's up to all of us to confront and dismantle systemic oppression. Let's continue to learn, grow, and strive for a more inclusive and equitable future for all. Thank you for joining us on this eye-opening journey through America's most racist towns. Remember, change starts with awareness and understanding. Together, we can strive for a future where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Stay informed, be the change you want to see, and let's work towards a brighter and more inclusive America.